Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So, TVD is on the cusp of having a top 5 UM career. I'm going to get into that. And how does this sophomore class stack up to the 2012 sophomore class, right? So, we're going to get into that. So, let me preface this by saying, about TVD. It's a gift and a curse with this fan base, right? I'm a part of it, right? The gift is we have such high expectations, right? We want national championships. We feel that we are the best program in the entire state. Most national championships, most NFL production, bar none. Best middle linebacker of all time, best safety of all time. Arguably the best quarterbacks that have come out. I mean, just a myriad of different things that the University of Miami has. We should be proud of those things. But then you also have the curse. And the curse is that people don't appreciate stuff while it's here. Prime example, Brad Collier. And I'm not going to absolve myself from this because I felt there were instances that I felt like, Brad probably could have played better. But when you really stop and you really think about it, Brad was a good quarterback. Brad was a great quarterback. His only downfall was his immobility. And it didn't help that the offensive line, by the time he was a sophomore and a junior, was not at the level that it needed to be at to protect him the way it needed to be protected. I don't have to go through those games, but Brad played big-time ball. And the biggest thing that I see some people say is he never beat Florida State. And it's like, what more could he have done? But I'm not here to talk about Brad. I'm here to talk about Tyler Van Dyke. Obviously, grand scheme of thing, top 5 career, especially at quarterback, need that natty. Now, I'm not going to put that pressure on TVD. If we were to catch a magical run, TVD might could go down as, I don't know. When you think about the modern era, he could be top 2, but who knows? But I'm just speaking from purely statistical standpoint. TVD has the ability this year to break the all-time passing, well, not the all-time passing, but have the most passing yards in the season, as well as the most touchdown passes within a season. He has those records right there that are there to be broken. He also can move into the top 5, actually number 4 to be exact, in the all-time passing list with a mere 3,000 yards passing, which in today's game, that should be a given. Where you can literally throw a swing route to a shifty guy, make a guy miss, pick up a block, and he's gone 60, 70, 80 yards. So that's there for him to be, that's there for him to have. So by and large, that to me would be a top 5 career for a quarterback. Obviously, to really solidify, you need that natty. But like I said, I'm not going to overlook, good play because, again, just like anything else, it's just so many different variables. It's a team game, and anything can happen, right? But that's the way that I look at it, right? So, next subject. How does this 2022 sophomore class line up or match up against the 2012 class, right? So I just wrote down about, 2, 4, 6. I wrote down 7 names from each class, right? And we'll just see what we were thinking back in 2012, actually 2013 when they were going to sophomores, and what we think about this class in 2023. So we'll start with the 2012 class, headlined by Duke Johnson and Tracy Howard. Then we got Deion Bush, Raphael Kirby, who was one of my favorites, Rayshawn Jenkins, who really came on late that particular year and actually looked like he was just as highly touted as Deion Bush, Tyreek the Freak McCord, and Eric Flowers, who ultimately ended up becoming a first-round draft pick. So that's that class. Now we got the 2022 class, which Markeith Williams, which is a guy that should probably get a lot of playing time, maybe actually will probably end up playing more than Avonte actually played last year due to probably the way that the defense may move James as well as Cam around, because I've heard Cam say that he's going to be doing a lot more things this particular year. So Markeith Williams could be a guy that does get to see the field, and he looked really good in his short stints that we saw of him last year. Najee Kelly. Najee Kelly probably, when you think about this, he probably, and I would actually put him above Wes Bryant, honestly, just due to the position that he plays, due to the size that he is, just due to his natural ability. Najee Kelly probably could be maybe the Duke Johnson of this class, in the sense that he's the guy that just, when it's a play to be made, he's going to make a play. We could argue Wes Bryant, but I just think that it's just so imperative to have D-line play, right? Not taking anything away from Wes, but that's how I feel about Najee. Jaleel Skinner, Chris Graves, obviously Wes Bryant, Ja'Cory Brown, and Kobe Young. Now, again, how does this class match up? I think it matches up very well. Now, obviously, of course, one of the things that we have to kind of get over if we really want to truly judge this, and I'm not trying to see which sophomore class you think is better, because I think that wouldn't be fair. I don't think it's fair, right? But I just want to see how it matches up in terms of just potential and the type, and what do we see from these players last year in reference to what we saw from the 2012 class as freshmen, that gives us a sense of, man, you know what, this is going to be something good. Obviously, of course, going back to 2012, we saw Duke Johnson make an immediate impact as a true freshman, an immediate impact. Obviously, I think Duke ended up hitting that freshman wall, and then I think he had a little, getting nicked up a little bit, but we saw it, right? I think Duke ended his freshman year with 800 rushing yards. Maybe he went over 1,000 in all-purpose yards, but very, very good. And obviously Duke was called on to play early, so that was something that helped that out. Whereas when we look at this particular freshman class, nobody was really called upon early to make a impact. I think Jaleel Skinner probably played the earliest, if my memory serves me correctly. And obviously Kobe Young came on later during that year. Going back to 2012, Tracy Howard, #1 corner in all of America, a guy who we really felt that going into his sophomore year, even with Mark Denuffer as the defensive coordinator, was going to be that guy, was going to be a lockdown corner. Obviously the duo of Deion Bush and Rayshawn Jenkins, who, when I stop and think about it, like I still to this day say, man, we were deprived of probably one of the better safety duos that we've seen in a long time, because when those guys were on the field together, they did some great, great things together. Tyreek McCord was a guy who was supposed to be the sack machine for us, right? Similar build, was smaller build than Najee Kelly is, but same type of explosiveness, same type of athleticism, the knack of getting to the ball. And obviously, again, like I said, Eric Flowers just came in and just did his thing, right? Solidified his position at the offensive line. So honestly, like I said, I think this class stacks up really well. The interesting thing about the 2012 class, however, is that each and every one of those players actually played as true freshmen. And I'm talking about not just mop-up duty. They actually were able to play. Whereas, you have a guy such as Chris Graves, who we really didn't see a lot of, but a lot of people have a lot of high expectations for him. Again, like I said, I've been out the loop, but it does seem that some of the older guys are still kind of ahead, so it'll be interesting to see what his development is moving forward. Obviously, Kobe Young, who probably ended the year as our #1 wide receiver, and probably should be the favorite to be the #1 wide receiver going into next year. So when we look at this particular class, right, and going back to 2012, In 2012, 2013, obviously we know Duke was a starter. Tracy Howard ended up being a starter. Deion Bush, Raphael Kirby, Rayshawn Jenkins, and Eric Flower were starters. McCord was rotating in and out, but we saw the impact that he had. And when we flip over here to this 2022 class, we probably pencil in that Kobe Young and Wes Basant probably would be the only definitive starters. Obviously, Jaleel Skinner. I read something today that they were flexing on Jaleel Skinner out to, in the slot, which I think that's going to be his best thing. So I don't want to use that as a demerit on the 2022 class to say that they only have, at this particular point, probably 2 at the most starters, whereas the 2012 class, 6 out of the 7 were actual starters, because I do think that we have some good talent that's ahead of them that's going to play. So Kelly probably may end up, maybe taking over a role, or may he end up starting right now. But again, I don't think there was anything that, excuse me, any one of the guys that are in front of him, I don't think there's anything that they did wrong for him to overtake them. But again, along the defensive line, it's one of those type of deals where it's not necessarily about how much you play or if you start. It's more so about the reps that you get. But like I said, I'm not going to use that as a demerit against the 2022 class because they only have 2 guys, 3 maybe, that are going to be surefire starters versus the 2012 class where we had 6 out of 7 guys as starters, like I said. But excuse me. But I will say this, though. And I'm trying to keep this in context because the hard thing about going back and looking at these older classes is that the first memory that you have of guys is like, man, they didn't pan out. Man, they didn't pan out. Man, he didn't pan out. And so that kind of clouds your judgment. So you'll say things such as, well, I think this class has a higher ceiling, than this guy's do, when you're completely forgetting that we felt the same way about their class. So, but what I will say is this, though, is that I do think projecting forward, right? I don't think that the 2012 class, if we're looking at it, if those guys were to play to their full potential, they had played to their full potential. I think obviously I felt Flowers probably would have still been a first round pick. Maybe Deion Bush, but they're really not taking safeties that high. Tracy Howard probably could have been a first rounder, maybe second rounder. So maybe we could have had 2 first round picks out of that class. Whereas when I look over here on the 2022 thing, right, I think when you look at Najee Kelly, has all the tools, all the intangibles. Wes Basant, another guy. Jaleel Skinner, with the way that they're using tight ends right now, if he kind of gets into the mold of things. So, again, I don't like to forecast these things out, but I will say that I think I'll say this, to be on the safe side. I think the 3 best from 2012, right, I don't think their ceilings are as high as the 3 best from this particular class, right, which are, in my opinion, again, are Kelly, Skinner, and Wes. And we could throw Ja'Carri Brown in there, but we just have to see what he looks like in the entire season. But if he does play the way that he does, I think that's 4. And so I do think that from just a ceiling standpoint, right, just the top 3, I think with their body types and all those things, because obviously Duke, I don't think there was anything Duke could have done to gone any higher than the second round, right? And obviously Duke was the absolute best player in that class. But I see right here in this class some high potential guys. Again, if their play intensifies. But what do you guys think? I'm always interested to see what you guys think. Do you think that's an accurate assessment? I'm not going to say that the 2022 class was a better class than 2012 because, again, like I said, when we look back at 2012, the first thing we'll say is like, oh man, just the guys didn't make it, right? But if you can kind of peel back and say, man, you know what? I remember being excited about these guys playing. And I have the same level of excitement now. Which one are you more excited about, right? Again, you gotta put your bias to the side. You gotta, even though you know the ending story of 2012, if you can, just go back and think about the excitement in the UN program when these guys were going to be sophomores. But again, I just think that body types, and obviously that was 10 years ago, right? A lot has changed in football in 10 years. And so I think this class, when you add in the times that we're in right now, and even if we were to put the 2012 class into today's times, I don't really think much would really change. I do think the wild card in 2012 is Raphael Kirby, however, though. I don't think he came in with that injury, and he just never seemed to get it together. But I really was really fond of him. But anyway, man, this video is going on a little bit longer than I wanted to go. But as always, man, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And as always, it is all about the you.